What's up, guys? Gage here with Fit Life Training, and I wanted to bring Dawn onto the podcast today to talk about a few different things in the health and fitness world. Recently, I made a post talking about what would you guys like to see coming from a trainer's perspective in terms of behaviors in the gym, like what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, because it's very easy to have someone do things that really isn't that great and run it by you, and you're just like, oh well, that's just life. It's not life. So I wanted to bring a female trainer onto the podcast to give you her perspective of appropriate, inappropriate behavior, and then obviously have the male perspective of that behavior. But I want to give a quick intro to Dawn. Dawn owns a sweat club in Red Bank. Dawn, how long have you been training? How long have you been in the fitness industry in general?
God, off and on, probably since college, but I've had the current business we just actually this year or this month celebrated our 12th anniversary. So
Oh,
12
wow, that's
years. So
awesome.
yeah,
12 years. I
yeah,
mean, most
yeah,
people don't even make it past like 5. So
yeah,
past that,
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
we made it.
yeah, for sure.
So with that being said, I've in my career, I've been doing this for like 10 years, and I've seen behaviors from coaches, trainers in the past that get overlooked by most of the public just because a certain individual has a bubbly personality and they just think, hey, this person's just a flirty person. It's okay. Over time, you get to the point where you're like, this is not okay, especially as a dad or a husband, and I send my daughter or my wife to a coach or a trainer. I'm sending them to that person to better themselves. I want them to feel more confident. I want them to be more outgoing and just be better, whether it's me sending my daughter to gymnastic class or my wife to a trainer. I want to better their life. And a couple weeks ago, I had a dad come to me that I've never met before in my life. And he just randomly came to my gym. Don't know how he found me, but he's like, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, putting this out into the open, because so many people look past this. And we kind of got into the conversation of grooming. And he's like, my daughter has been groomed by a certain person for the past year, and I thought we were buddies. And that's just how these situations come about. You get to be really close friends with a person that knows a lot of intimate things about you. That's what personal training is. You have to
Hmm.
understand, hey, what's this person's problem and how can I fix it? And it's very easy to become emotionally attached to somebody like that if you don't set certain boundaries. And that's what we need to let the people know. So, just coming from the female perspective, you've dealt with this with trainers before in the past. What are some behaviors that people, especially females, should look out for in terms of inappropriate behavior inside the gym?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Right off the bat, I like to refer to these people or these men or these trainers as predators because that is exactly what they are, as a predator. From things that I've seen in the past, even in the current, as far as adult women go. You know, these types of men, these types of predators, they prey on women who, have low self-esteem, who are self-conscious. Maybe they're not getting the attention at home from their husband. So when they have, this person, like you're saying, the flirty person, giving them this attention, this praise, everything like that, that is what I feel that women, that's why they kind of are able to look past, the inappropriate behavior, because now this predator is making them feel better about
Mm-hmm.
themselves, and that is a huge line that you do not cross. I mean, when you become a personal trainer, personal training 101 specifically tells you, you don't have inappropriate relationships with your people, with your clients. um, if you're going to touch somebody, you ask permission. You don't just go and touch them. If you're going to, video them in a way or whatever, you make sure that it's okay with them. And you're, staying in the appropriate way. You're not having a cell phone, at their breast or their butt or something like that, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I made
But,
a parody
it's just,
video. I made a parody video one time, and it was with a guy. I was joking, and I did like I was like, I had someone recording me. And I like ran over and I did a flip,
Yeah.
and I slid underneath his. It was a joke. His
I
crotch.
think I
I was like,
remember that.
I'm recording. Don't be like this is just normal. But
Yeah, yeah,
it was funny. But
yeah,
yeah, no, like
yeah,
that's one thing. Like when someone signs up with me, I'm like, hey, if it's even in my waivers, I'm like, if you don't want me like to post videos or pictures or
yep,
whatever, like just tell me. Like I'm not gonna
yep,
do it.
yep,
But also when you are trying to market your gym or what you're doing, you got to do it in a way that makes someone feel comfortable in general. And
yes.
one thing that I tell a client when they first sign up is everybody sees me. I post transformation pictures all the time. Most people don't want to take transformation pictures, but they're
Mhm.
good for the individual because we are our own worst enemies. And in 6 months, you can look completely different, but you think you don't. But if you see the pictures, you can tell the difference. But
Mhm.
when I'm talking to a client specifically, especially a female, I'm like, hey, take some pictures you feel comfortable in. Whatever that is, I don't care. And you don't even have to send them to me. Just
Mhm.
take the pictures. That way you can see where we're at now and where we're going to be in the future. But that's one thing that is very easily, I guess, conscried. I don't know what the word I am, what word I'm looking for is, but especially in the bodybuilding world, a female wants to get into bodybuilding and you get a coach and the coach is like, well, you need to send me very like discreet pictures. You need to have very little on. That's a completely different world. We're not in that world. We're not in the bodybuilding world.
Yep,
And I honestly don't really see a reason for that in general.
yep,
But if you're not a bikini competitor trying to step on a stage, that's like 1% of the population, you don't need to be sending very little clothed pictures to your trainer. It's stupid.
yep,
And if your trainer is asking for that, then that is 1000% a sign that that is inappropriate.
yep.
Especially if you're married or a young kid. You know, like
Yeah,
it
yep.
happens with teenagers too.
Especially, yes,
So
yes.
what do you do when your clients are like asking about transformation pictures? And I know you have some trainers. Like, are your trainers asking for transformation pictures? What does that look like in terms of your business?
Yeah, we do. We always, recommend that people do transformation photos, but for themselves. And we tell them if you want to share them with us, we would love to see them, but it's not necessary. But just like you said, I always recommend people to do those transformation photos because that is going to tell you so much more than what a number on the scale is going to tell you. Even myself, when I take my own transformation photos every month or whatever, and I'm like, the scale might not move, whatever. But I mean, like, that is what is really going to tell you. And like I said, I tell them, if you want to share them, dress in a way that you feel comfortable. If wearing a pair of shorts and a tank top is comfortable for you, awesome. I said it's up to you. You don't have to wear underwear and a bra or a bikini or anything like that. Number one is what makes you feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, that's what is most important, is making the client feel comfortable. Because one of the hardest things ever is stepping inside to a gym and making, that vulnerability because you need the help, and you're asking somebody for help, and then going, a step further and now asking this very vulnerable, person, oh, I want you to take transformation photos and send them to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could be crushing.
Yep.
And I'm going to say a side note too, that there should absolutely never, ever, ever be a time or place where a child needs to send transformation photos to a trainer. Absolutely, there's no reason for that. And I have known many girls under the age of 18 that have been asked by a trainer to send transformation photos. And there's that, I mean, that's, to me, that's child pornography. You're asking for child pornography. And the thing that drives me crazy with that is, and we've talked about this briefly, but a few things. A underage child should never be texting with their coach. Never. Coach should never be on Snapchat with them. I mean, I know of middle-aged men who are on Snapchat. Please tell me why an almost 40-year-old man needs to be on Snapchat, talking to a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I was thinking about this, before we started, when we were talking about doing this podcast, Think of the behaviors and what you would expect from your child's teacher in school. Would you be okay with your child's teacher in school text messaging them on their own phone, or asking them for transformation photos, asking them to come hang out, asking them whatever? That teacher would automatically be fired and parents would be outraged. So why would that same behavior be tolerated outside of the school with a different with coach,
No, no, I agree. And just to kind of combat that a little bit, some parents try to give their kids independence in trying to handling their own situations in life. Like, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
need you to communicate with this coach. You need to create that connection. So that might be why some situations where that connection might be made, they might be texting each other.
Yep.
Why someone would add somebody on Snapchat is beyond me. Um, that doesn't make any sense. That to
Yeah.
me, it, my daughter's 3, but if she were in the age of like 15, 16, and I hire her a coach to do whatever, and for whatever reason, if my daughter has Snapchat, I'm going to be monitoring what happens on there. And if I see that the coach and her friends on there, that is going to, well, one, I know I'm going to be talking to the coach regardless, but that's a big red flag. You don't want
Mm-hmm.
that. That's like
Yeah.
anything can happen on there. And like you said, being a grown man, why are you Snapchatting? Like you don't need it. That's not. It's just not how you run business. You wouldn't text a business associate if you're trying to acquire a company through Snapchat. You're not going to do that.
Right. Right.
Another thing with that is parents should be monitoring their text messages with these coaches too. Uh, Sometimes we give a little bit too much independence there, and we have a lot of trust. What happens with these trainers and coaches, and a couple of years ago, there was a gymnastics coach or cheerleading coach that was arrested. And you would look at the pictures of him online hanging out with these 15-year-old girls. This dude was like 30, 35 years old. He's hugging up on them and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm looking at the pictures and I'm like, okay, you're not going to be touching my daughter that way in general. Like, you're not going to give her a
Mm-hmm.
hug. One thing I wanted to talk about with you is what do you deem is appropriate in terms of, I guess, interaction between a coach and a client? Because some people are very emotional. Some people are huggers. I've seen some very nice people, guys that are really, they're huggers. They like to hug people. I personally don't want to be touched at all. My clients even stated this out. They're like, Gage, I've never seen you touch anybody in the gym. The most you'll do is a fist pump or a pat in the back. I'm like, because I've seen the worst of the worst, and I don't want to be put in that situation. But with that being said, I have seen in the past a married woman run and jump into the arms of a married man and wrap her legs around him. And even teenagers do that to like coaches too. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, if I saw my wife do that to another man, I'd probably punch the guy in the face first off. And we'd have, but anyway, she wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I'm just
Yeah. No.
what do you do? Like, I'm just the type of person, I'm like, I'm not going to touch it. I don't want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
You guys might have a little bit more of a connection with your clients where maybe somebody does need a hug. They're having a really bad day.
Yeah.
And they need a hug. They might need a little side hug. I don't know what that looks like. What to you would you deem as appropriate as a hug in the gym by your coach?
Honestly, I mean, I have, my clients, my female clients, I like yesterday, one of them, gave me something and like she gave me a hug, I mean, it's like, I feel like when it's, female, if they're like, your friends, this is somebody that I hang outside of the gym with, type of thing or whatever, there's a difference between that. But then a difference between the physical touch, I feel between a man and a woman who is different. I personally would never hug a male client. There's no reason. Pat on the shoulder, fist bump, high five, something like that. But I look at it as how would I feel if that was my husband doing that to another female? I put myself in those shoes. I feel that that's very disrespectful for me to do that to my husband. And I would feel disrespected if my husband did that to me with another woman.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like you said in the beginning, coaching, training is a very intimate position. you are seeing people at their worst, you're seeing people at their best. I mean, we're part coach, part therapist for the
Mhm.
most part. I mean, our people, they open up to us, part of, you know, transforming your body is also transforming your mind, and you have people that are opening up to you about, how they're feeling, things that, scare them, things that are going on at home, especially from the nutrition aspect of it. I had a really bad week last week because of XYZ, and this is why I binged, they're coming to you, with their vulnerability. And, you as a coach, you're having to take this in, but you have to, like you said, make that line. I am your coach. I am listening to you, but I am not, somebody that, is going to comfort you or is going to take this a step further or something like that. So I feel that, I mean, yes, high five, side hug. I don't feel there should ever be a chest to chest hug between a man and a woman, because again, that's a little bit too intimate for,
Mhm.
I believe, especially man and a child, doesn't matter if it's boy or girl. Again, that isn't something that should be tolerated. I mean, you wouldn't be okay with, somebody else, like I said, a teacher, something like that in school, having that type of skin to skin or whatever contact with your child. Why would it be okay for a coach to do that as well? So, I mean, again, if it's friends, if you're friends with that member, the members or whatever, you have that relationship girl to girl or whatever. Like I said, my female
Yeah.
members, we'll give each other hugs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's just, I am not a hugger at all. So like they kind of like force me to do this. I
Yeah.
think they know I get uncomfortable about it. So
Yeah.
they may, but like, again, I would never, man, never, I would never hug a male.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
the thing with me is like I'm very protective over my girls, my wife, my daughter, my mom. I'm just protective of that way. And like if I were to send them out to like I said, a coach or something, and I see the coach trying to give them like a hug like that, I'm like, I personally, this is just me. I'm a hot headed person sometimes. I would take the coach if I was a dad and I was in that situation. I'd take them aside. I'm like, hey, bro, do not touch do not touch them. I don't
yep,
care who you are. I don't care. And
yeah,
the thing is that these coaches, they act like they're buddy buddy with you. They are the fakest people in the world. They will pretend like they're best friends with you. They will hang out with you. They will do everything in the world to make it seem like the two guys, if it's a guy in a situation, that you're going to be buddy buddy and you're best friends. That's how they make it seem. And what this is also technically grooming. And what they're doing is they're grooming the dad or the husband to get associated with this kind of behavior and make it think that it's okay that they're buddy buddy with their daughter, buddy buddy with their wife.
yep,
That's grooming. Also, in the back end, they're grooming your daughter or wife. If they were like, when my clients text me, like my clients will text me every single day to send me nutrition and whatnot. And they're like, man, I really don't want to send this to you like past like 8 o'clock. I'm like, cool, whatever. You can send it to me or not. I'm not gonna look at my phone until 6 a.m. the next morning. So do whatever you want to. We shouldn't be texting our clients at a certain time of the day. And if we are texting, it's strictly business. Okay. So that's one thing we all need to understand. It's business. It's not anything other than that. If you want to go out to eat as friends and whatever, go do it. But set the freaking boundaries. And there's too many dads out there. So one reason I wanted to do this is because dads don't speak up enough. I went to go watch Riley Gaines speak. And if you don't know who Riley Gaines is, she was a collegiate
mm-hmm,
swimmer, and she had a big situation with men entering into women competition, right? Not only that, they were allowing men to change in the locker room with these females. And when you're a swimmer, you're wearing nothing, and you're changing, and you're standing next to a 6'4" guy. Anyways, it got to a certain point where nobody was saying anything. There was guys walking into the women's locker room, watching the women change, and nobody would say anything. And I thought to myself, I'm like, where are the dads at? Why are they like? I don't care if the NCAA says this is okay. I don't care if the president or whoever says this is okay. Morally, this is not okay. And if it makes a girl, a female, feel uncomfortable, it's not acceptable. So when someone feels uncomfortable, Dawn, what should they do? How do they communicate that with whoever? What do they do?
Honestly, they should go, if it's a girl, go to your parents. Like, seriously, go to your parents. You should be able to have that kind of relationship with your parents that, they feel that they could go to them. If they don't feel that they can go to their parents, go to a friend's mom, so, like a teacher at school, somebody in, police officer or something like that. But this is a big, big thing that seriously crushes me. Like, so I don't have kids, so my female clients, when we talk about their daughters and stuff like that during classes, my heart breaks for them. Like, I couldn't even imagine what it would be like being a parent in this day and age right now, and the stories that they tell and everything. However, I am a child. I'm a victim of sexual abuse when I was little, and I also am a victim of sexual harassment in the corporate world when I was an adult. And here's the thing is that, especially as an adult, you know, this is a lot of thing that women do face is that you try to say something to somebody and people, they don't want to listen or they don't want to be the person that is involved or, has to say something about it, because, oh, well, if this person came to me about it, I don't want to call out this person because now I'm going to look like the bad guy. And I feel like that's what's happening with so many of these girls is that they're terrified of how they're going to look because especially, these predators, they are like feel that their narcissistic brains give them the superhero status, and they're afraid that if they come forward, they are going to be the bad guy.
Mhm.
The person that is the victim that got, sexually assaulted, abused, whatever it is, they're going to be the bad guy, not the person that's the predator causing this because, they're afraid of how everybody is going to look to them. And this is what absolutely crushes me because I feel that there are so many underage girls that are victims of this, but they're terrified to come forward because of how society and everybody in this area is going to view them,
Mhm.
and they're afraid of what the backlash or the repercussion is going to be, or heaven forbid, this predator has something on them that,
Mhm.
they hold over their head and blackmail them with or something like
Yeah.
that. And that is the stuff that absolutely just crushes me, and I've had people come to me showing me text messages and screenshots and stuff of things that, these male coach predator has like sent to them, but yet they don't want to say anything to anybody. They don't want me to go for it. And I tell every single one of them. When I took over the Hickson location, I had on TV screens, I put, you should never feel uncomfortable working out in a gym. You should never be made to feel uncomfortable. If you ever feel uncomfortable, if anybody ever makes you feel uncomfortable, you come to me and I will take care of it. And I tell that to every single person because I want to create a safe space for women and for girls to be able to stand up for themselves and come forward and not be afraid with repercussions.
Mhm.
I mean, I saw with my own two eyes, Snapchat, of course, of a coach around here that sent to an 18-year-old girl. The message read, "Your mom would kill me if she knew how bad I was flirting with you." This is a married man with a child. Sent that to an 18-year-old girl. And this is what's happening. And these girls are terrified of coming forward because of what will happen to them with the backlit, because they are the victim, but they don't feel that they are the victim. They're afraid to come forward because they feel that it's not right, or they shouldn't, or they will be made to, be the bad person if they come
Yeah.
forward.
Here's the thing with that. Right? But I'm laughing, but because it's so insane. A lot of people do come to me and they're like, "Hey, so and so is doing this." They'll tell me, and then also simultaneously they're like, "I feel bad for this person. I don't want to. I don't want anything to come about this." And then even I myself get to the point where I'm not a global person, but I'm a heartfelt person, right? Sometimes these most of these people that are doing this, there's something called the prodigal cycle. It's from the Bible. It's called the prodigal son. And what happens is we go through a cycle of we're good, we start to do bad things, we start to do really bad things, we're doing really bad things. Here, right here, we get caught. And we come back and we praise Jesus, and we're right back here at the top, and we're being really religious. We're pretending to be, pretending to be. And then we go right back after we got caught. We're good for a couple months, and we go right back to it. And it's this
Yep.
year round, year after year, and the only way to stop someone from doing this is to hold them accountable. If everybody and their brother is just like, I feel bad, I don't want to mess with this, it's just going to keep happening and happening and happening and happening. And eventually, one dad will stand up and might take it too far. I'm the type of dad that would accidentally take it too far. And what I mean, I'm not going to explain how I would mean by that, but if that happened to my daughter, I don't know what I would do. Like, I really don't. Uh, so at this point, we got to say, hey, victims, if something is happening to you, we have to hold this person accountable. If you feel bad for this person, don't. One. Two, and the only way to fix it is to make sure they're on their P's and Q's and get it out there. And that's what we're doing with this podcast. So if you see something, say something. Say something to me. Say something to you. I don't, obviously, everybody knows I don't give a crap. Like, I like to tell people how it is because most people are too scared. We live in a society where everybody's worried about people's feelings and blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I'm going to hold you accountable. I've had conversations with pastors before. They're like, hey, we're kind of getting the same situation. Women come to us and they're talking about their marriages and stuff are going on. And if you're not careful, things will happen. You have to draw the line. You have to know the right between right and wrong, right? And in a church, if someone high up in the church is doing something they shouldn't be doing, you know what happens in the church? The elders, all the head people in the church, bring that person on stage and tell everybody, this person's doing this. They need to repent or get out, right? That's just how it goes. That's how it should be handled in society. But I think a little bit different other than from society. So that's just my thought. If someone is pretending to live this great and glorious lifestyle, praising Jesus, one, that's great. Praise Jesus all you want to. But if you're praising Jesus on Sunday and you're possessed by a demonic spirit Monday through Saturday, that ain't helpful, and you're not doing anything good in this world. So with that being said, are there any last things you want to say, Dawn? Sometimes I'll get off on a tangent and I won't shut up. So.
No, I mean, just what you said too. I mean, for women, especially girls and women, you don't be quiet about things. If something happens to you, if something is said to you, however inappropriate you might feel that it is, nothing is too big, too small, whatever. Come to somebody about it. First and foremost, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, you have every right in the world to say no. Mm-hmm. Stop doing this. Stop contacting me. Do not say this. You have every right in the world to leave that coach. You don't have to stay with them. Don't, even if they try to sweet talk you or give you free training or anything like that, it is never going to stop. Once a predator, always a predator. And if you know that something is going on and you are not standing up or saying something, you are also part of the problem, and because not coming forward, who knows what could happen, down the road. It could be your daughter, it could be your friend, it could be your sister, your wife, whoever, and that is the thing that drives me crazy, is that people knowingly let these things keep happening and happening and happening mm-hmm. to their wives, to their children, friends, whatever, and nobody stands up and says anything. And that is the problem right there. And that is why these people continue to get away with this stuff. Yeah. And it's enough is enough. We are now in a time where, women are trying to rise above, like become stronger and everything. And this is when you have to start, women, mothers, fathers, you have to teach your daughters to stand up for themselves, mm-hmm. to be strong, to tell them no, to teach them what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. And if, anybody, if you have ever been a victim of something like this, or it's happening now or whatever, do know that you have safe spaces between myself, between Gage, and I know there's other people that to come to, and we will help you. Like if you don't want your name to be mentioned, completely fine, but we are there to help you. We are there to protect you, and we are there to end these predators from what they're doing to the women and children around here.
And this just isn't in the fitness world. This is in all
Exactly.
spectrums. This is
Yep.
sports. This is in any
School,
discipline. This can
everything.
happen anywhere. All
Yep.
these signs and everything that we're talking about happens everywhere, like you
Yep.
just said.
Yep.
And the scariest part is just talking about it. It truly is. It can even be scary for us sometimes talking about it out in the open because
Yep.
anybody can do anything.
Yep.
But if you don't stand for anything, you don't stand for anything. You gotta
Yeah.
stand for something in your life, and if it's anything, it's gotta be yourself.
Yep. It just like what I said, it makes you part of the problem.
Yep.
Knowing that this is going on, like you said, doesn't matter school, coaches, friends, parents, like whatever, it's happening all around us, and we're not being quiet about it. And I hope that, when people see this podcast, that they get something from this, and they feel that they need to help and stand up and make a change with this as well.
Absolutely. Well, Don, thank you so much for hopping on. And for individuals out there that some individuals that they don't click well with males. So if there's anybody out there that is interested in reaching out to you, how can they reach out to you?
Just send me an email, dawn@sweatclub.fit, FIT. And I'm always here to talk to anybody.
Awesome. Well, other than that, guys, that's it for the podcast. If you have any problems, anything going on in life, reach out. I'm sure we'll be happy to help. Other than that,
Yep.
peace out.
Thanks, Gage. Appreciate you for doing this.
Absolutely.